Dear friend of the Major TV, thanks of your support, we can continue to make great special and interviews. Tonight we have a very special guest in connection with us from Los Angeles. A warm welcome to Maestro Conductor Christopher Russell. Hello, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you.
Well, I have many questions to ask you, and I would like to start right now from the beginning. How did your passion for classical music come about, and what led you to become a conductor?
It was, I had an interesting story because it was very different. That I started kind of late. And when I was in school, we had a class that was a music appreciation class. And the teacher, like all good teachers, they unlock something in you. And I remember hearing some of these famous classical pieces early on, and that kind of got me hooked. And then a few years later, I was watching a TV program with the Boston Symphony. And I don't remember who the conductor was, but I thought, well, I want to do that. I want to be a conductor. And I had no training at all. But then ever since then, I've still wanted to be a conductor. And I've always wanted to be a conductor. And so then I just set my sights to go into conducting from there.
Yeah, when we wrote each other via email for this interview off the record, we got talk about Toscanini and your Milanese roots connection with your mother, who was born and raised in Como, and then of your great-grandfather, who worked as stage director with Maestro Arturo Toscanini. I'm really curious to know something more about this incredible story.
Well, it actually starts in Russia, which is where my great-grandparents met. And so my great-grandfather was a stage director in St. Petersburg. And then at the revolution in 1917, they had to leave the country very, very quickly. And with them, they took their daughter, who was 3 years old. That was my grandmother. So they found their way to Italy, and they settled in Milan. And it was in Milan where my great-grandfather got a job working at La Scala. He specialized in the Russian operas there, like Queen of Spades, Tchaikovsky, and some other ones that I remember that he did. But he did work with Toscanini at the time. And I remember my grandmother, when she was alive, she would say when she was little how Toscanini would come to the house. And she would, even though she was little, she was absolutely terrified of Toscanini, like most people were. Even grown musicians were terrified of Toscanini. So it was a very neat connection, and it was there. My grandmother eventually got married, and then that's where my mother was born and raised there.
So you breathe classical music since you was a kid. I read that you are currently conducting a beautiful orchestra in Southern California, the Azusa Pacific, I pronounced it well. Tell us more about the project you're carrying out with this beautiful orchestra.
So Azusa Pacific University is located about 30 minutes east of LA. And it's one of the largest Christian universities in the Western United States. And we have a lot of students in the orchestra from all different countries. Of course, a lot of Americans, but we have students from Brazil, and from China, from Romania, from Korea, from all different places around the world. So what we're able to do here is perform the standard repertoire, but also modern repertoire as well. And I appreciate the fact, first, that the orchestra is very open to doing new things. And then also I'm able to program things that I would like and that I think are important for them. So it could be anything from Mozart and Beethoven all the way up through brand new pieces. We have actually score right behind me. That blue score is a piece by the French composer Eric Tanguy, and we're giving the first United States performance of it in just a few weeks. So I like to give them the breadth of repertoire that's there. Plus, being close to LA, we had the chance to see the great LA Philharmonic and lots of experiences that the students can get here. So it's been immensely satisfying for me.
Well, following this new upcoming event, of course, in addition to your great commitment to international orchestras, you also find time to teach, as you said. In fact, you are associate professor in the College of Music in the APUS, in the arts. How do you feel with your students? What do you like most about your job with that guys and girls to teaching to them?
It's funny because when I started conducting, I didn't really think too much about teaching. But then I realized over the years, and even when I was studying conducting, how much I liked teaching and how much I liked sharing great music with young people. Because when we do even a Beethoven symphony, some of them have maybe never played it before. And to have them discover these great works of art, they're really works of art, for the first time, and show them and take even a little bit of time in rehearsal and say, well, here's what this composer does, and here's why it makes it a great piece. And to see them have that discovery, for me, is very satisfying to take them through some of these great pieces for the first time. And then I also teach I have conducting students as well, so graduate conducting students. So I teach several of them over the years, and they've gone all over the world to do their craft, and that's been fun to see.
I know also your interest in our older music, such Havergal Bryan's 27 and 32nd, and Robert Simpson's 7th. Above all, you also recorded the Symphony in A composed in 1878 by Leopold Damrosch with the Apple Symphony. What is the work that the conductor must do to convey the meaning of this music to both the orchestras and to the public?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So a lot of times what I like to do, I like to bring in a lot of unusual repertoire, things that I think maybe need to have a light shined on them. Because we can do standard repertoire, and there's a reason why these pieces are performed a lot, the standard repertoire, because they're great pieces. But I think also there's a lot of important music that has not been heard that needs to be played as well. So I have a passion for doing that. So sometimes the challenge is for musicians and the audience is, well, what is this? I've never heard this before. I've never heard this person before, this particular composer, this particular piece. So the learning of the score is basically the same. So by showing the musicians and the audience that this is a piece that really is worth discovering, then hopefully that maybe will open up more doors for everyone to say, well, there's more out there than what the standard repertoire is. So standard repertoire is important, modern repertoire is important, but there's so much great music out there that I think should be performed.
Well, you like challenges, and for this reason, the search for your musical adventure has led you to win for 8 times award for adventurous programming contemporary music, as well as the American Repertoire on Foreign Tour in 2008 for your tour in Australia. Congratulations. What does it mean for you
Thank
to
you.
experiment in music?
Yeah, again, I like to do so much that's out there. And ever since I started getting into classical music, I was so interested in everything that's out there. Even now, I love discovering new things. So when I program for orchestras, I like giving the orchestras all that's out there. And plus, I think it helps them to be more flexible musicians, where they can move from Mozart to Boulez without any problem whatsoever, stylistically moving from one thing to another. I think that helps them after they leave college and they go in to play in professional orchestras or whatever sorts of engagements that they have, that they're able to see a style of music and be able to perform it. So when I program a season, I like to have a lot of different things on there. when I go on tour, I also like to show the wealth of repertoire that's out there. So when I did a recent tour in Russia, and I brought a symphony from 1950 America, which is hardly performed in America, but I brought it to Russia too, and it was very, very well received by both the orchestra and the audience.
I saw with a great emotion that you often happen to present pre-concert readings and interviews at the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and you made interviews to extraordinary artists as Elsa Pekka-Salonen and many others. There is a moment you particularly remember about those interviews?
Yeah, it's a great honor for me to work with the LA Phil and to have them entrust me to do the pre-concert talks, which is basically introducing that evening's program to the audience that's there. Actually, I'll be there next week doing the talks. And then occasionally there may be a chance to interview an artist or a conductor or a soloist or a composer who may be performing on that night's program. And I think the thing that strikes me the most is, there are a lot of famous people there, but they're very kind. They're very, you could say, normal people, if that's the right word, but very friendly, very open, and they just want to share and communicate. And that's been something that's been a blessing, to be able to interact and be able to ask questions of these great artists that I would just enjoy talking to anyway in any circumstance. So it's been wonderful to do that, and with the great LA Phil at the very beautiful Walt Disney Concert Hall.
Congratulations for what are you doing. Where can we find you on social media?
Well, thank you for asking that. I think Instagram is the best way to follow me, and it's just simply Russell Conductor, all one word. Also on YouTube, we have a YouTube channel, Azusa Pacific Symphony, and there's probably about 30 or so videos on there from all different styles and time periods that you can have a look at.
Well, check it out for sure. Thank you so much, dear Chris, for these wonderful interviews. Thanks a lot for watching this interview. At the end of the video, you can find the link of Russell Conductor and for support us. See you soon.